Good morning, guys. Today we are going to continue the autobiography Long Walk to Freedom written by Nelson Mandela. In our last one class, we have seen that we have seen the meaning of courage according to Nelson Mandela, as well as there we have seen he talked about the feelings, the human feelings, love and hate, and there he says, or there he made a comparison between love and hate and said love comes more naturally than hate. So we should teach our children to love others. Yes, as we have to learn to hate. No one is born to hate others. So instead of teaching hating others, we should teach everyone to love everyone, to love others. Thereafter he says, man's goodness can be hidden, but it cannot be extinguished. So there he again made a comparison, or he used a metaphor and said man's goodness is a flame which cannot be extinguished. It can be only hidden but cannot be extinguished. So this way here he talked about the feelings of love and hate, then man's goodness, the meaning of courage, the meaning of brave man. Okay, later on let's see what he has said in the next part. There he talked about the twin obligations. Twin obligations. Okay. So as I told you, a very important part this is, because many questions are asked on this part. What are the twin obligations according to Nelson Mandela, or what are the twin obligations mentioned in the autobiography Long Walk to Freedom? So dear guys, you must know the twin obligations. Twin obligations means actually duties that every person has in their or in his or her life. Every person has some duties. So here he talked about twin means actually two obligations, two duties. Yes, twin obligations, that means two. Every person has two obligations, two duties in their or in her or his life. Yes, so what are these? Let's see. In life, every man has twin obligations, that means two obligations. First one is obligations to his family. Look at them. The first one obligation, that is to his family, to his parents, then to his wife and children. Okay, so this is the first one obligation he talked about. It is about his, it is for his family. Okay, and in family all these members come. Okay, parents, wife and children. So this means duty towards them. According to Nelson Mandela, it is first one obligation. Yes, that every person has to fulfill. But look at there again, second obligation he talked about. It is about, or it is for his country. Look at the end. He has an obligation to his people. To his community. And to his country. Okay, note down in your copy. These are the twin obligations Nelson Mandela talked about. First one is towards his family and second one is towards his country. Yes, simply अगर simply बात करना चाहें कि या फिर एक ब्रॉड कंसेप्ट में अगर बात करें तो simply we can say there are two obligations he talked about or he mentioned in his autobiography, and these are These are, the first one is towards his family and the second one is towards his country. So country means all his people and community. Family means parents, wife, children. Yes, so this way, these are the twin obligations that he talked about in his autobiography or he mentioned in his work. Okay, got it? Because this question is asked, mostly asked in examinations. Examination में बहुत बार ये क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. What are the twin obligations mentioned by Nelson Mandela? Yes. So you must know. First one is to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and another one is to his people, to his community, and to his country. Okay, note down in your copy. And then look at there. We are going to continue the same thing. In civil and human society. अब देखो इंसान की जो सोसाइटी में अब जब हम रहते हैं, so there he had talked about something more. Look at there what he said. While living in a society, human society, okay, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Yes, while living in society. Yes, or here he says, or while living in civil, और मतलब सोसाइटी, एक्चुअली सिविल यानी एक्चुअली सोसाइटी की बात कर रहे हैं, समाज में रहना, किसी शहरों में रहना. तो उस चीज़ की बात करी उन्होंने कि जब हम यहाँ रहते हैं, सो ईच मैन इज एबल टू फुलफिल दोज ऑब्लिगेशंस. ईच मैन इज एबल टू फुलफिल. Yes, when we live in a civil and humane society, that means actually here he talked about the normal condition, the society which is in normal condition or where is everything good, fine, जहाँ हर एक चीज़ अच्छी हो, humane हो, civil, well developed हो, well civilized हो. In such societies means यहाँ जो सिविल और ह्यूमन यहाँ सोसाइटी की जो बात करिए, एक्चुअली यहाँ ऐसी सोसाइटीज की बात हुई है विच आर सिविलाइज्ड, विच आर डेवलप्ड, वेर आर ह्यूमैनिटी और वेर इज ह्यूमैनिटी, जहाँ ह्यूमैनिटी है. सो there he talked about that society and said, in such society every man is able to fulfill those obligations. Every man is able to fulfill those obligations. हर कोई इंसान ये दोनों obligations, दोनों ड्यूटी पूरी कर सकता है according to his own inclinations and abilities. उसके abilities के आधार पे और inclination के आधार पे. Inclination means natural tendency of behavior. जो भी natural उनकी tendency होगी, उसकी जो इच्छा होगी, inclination, जो भी झुकाव होगा, according to that person can fulfill those obligations. But where? In a civil and humane society. In a civil and humane society, जहाँ इंसानियत है, जहाँ अच्छा डेवलप है, ऐसी सोसाइटी की बात करें उन्होंने कि in such society we can fulfill both the duties, both the obligations towards his country and towards his family. But अब देखो यहाँ उन्होंने एक दूसरी सोसाइटी की भी बात करी है जिसके अंतर्गत वो साउथ अफ्रीकन पीपल गुजर रहे थे. ओके, अब देखो क्या कहते हैं. But in a country like South Africa, as I told you here, he made a comparison between two societies or two conditions. First one is the condition which is in South Africa and another one is the condition that means in a society where everything is fine. And there he says, in the society where everything is fine, a person can fulfill both the obligations according to his inclinations and abilities. उनके ability और inclination, झुकाव के आधार पे वो दोनों obligations fulfill कर सकते हैं. But where? In such societies where everything is fine. ऐसी सोसाइटी में जहाँ हर कोई चीज़ अच्छे तरह से चल रही है. And that's why there he mentioned civil and humane society. Yes, ये दो वर्ड उनका मेंशन करने का इरादा ही वही था कि you should understand the difference between the societies. The well-developed, fine society and another one, the society where the conditions are adverse. And that's why here he said the country. But in the country like South Africa, it was impossible for a person to fulfill both the obligations. अपन भी खुद कंपेयर कर सकते हैं कि स्वतंत्र होने के पहले और स्वतंत्र होने के बाद, स्वतंत्र प्राप्त करने के बाद हमारी कंट्री में कोई भी व्यक्ति दोनों ऑब्लिगेशंस फुलफिल कर सकता है, बट स्वतंत्र होने के पहले इट वाज इम्पॉसिबल. जस्ट टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ वीरा सावरकर, यस, चंद्रशेखर आजाद. सच पीपल, you will find that these people were, even Mahatma Gandhi, these were unable to fulfill both the obligations as they were fighting for our country, means fulfilling their another one duty towards their country, but they lagged behind filling their family obligation. Yes, so there he talked about the two societies. First one where everything is fine, yes, and another society where everything is adverse. So look at there what he said. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. Look at there, as I told you now, there he talked about both the societies. First one, civil and humane society, where is everything fine, and another he talked about the society of South Africa, societies of South Africa, where everything was not good, everything was adverse for the blacks. And that's why there he says to fulfill, I mean it was almost impossible for a man of my birth, for a man of my birth and color. That means there he talked about my birth and color means blacks. There he said the man of black color, yes, was unable to fulfill both of those obligations, yes, it was obvious, और ये obvious भी है. For blacks it was really impossible to fulfill both the obligations towards the country and towards the family. So then here he says, in South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. Yes, there he says in South, means actually there in this part he is talking about the adverse condition of South Africa, how the people were punished, the blacks, actually people means the black skinned peoples, okay, these peoples were punished and isolated. Okay, so look at there what he said, a man of color means actually there he was talking about the blacks who attempted to live as a human being, attempted to live as a human being means human being, that means full of freedom, full of liberty, getting full rights as a human being, इंसान के तरह अगर जीना जो चाहेगा, that means with the rights, with liberty, with freedom, such person has to be or was punished and isolated. ऐसे व्यक्तियों को वहां पर क्या कर दिया जाता था, punished and isolate, separate कर दिया जाता था बाकी लोगों से. Yes, actually the living as a human being at that time in South Africa was called a revolutionary. Such person was called revolutionary. Yes, and that's why, and it was not good for the whites, it was not good for them, and that's why these people, the whites, were punishing and keeping them isolated, और साथ ही साथ उनको आइसोलेट करके रखा करते थे, उन्हें पनिश करते थे. टू whom? To those person who wanted to live as a human being, wanted to live as a human being, that means they rebel. Yes, they rebel against their oppression. They wanted to live as a human with full rights, with freedom, with liberty, but such leaders, such people were punished and isolated by the whites. And that's why here he says, and if they are punished or isolated means they could not fulfill their duty towards family. क्यों कंट्री का ड्यूटी फुलफिल कर रहा है तो उसके कारण उनको पनिशमेंट हो रही है, आइसोलेट किया जा रहा है, तो वो फैमिली की ड्यूटीज फुलफिल नहीं कर पाएंगे. Yes, it was obvious, and that's why there he says, in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for the blacks to fulfill both the obligations. Yes, look at there. Then he says, in South Africa, A man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family, his home, and was forced to live a life apart. Look at that. What did he say? There he says, a person who wanted to fulfill his duty towards the country, towards his people, towards his community. एक ऐसा व्यक्ति जो अपनी ड्यूटी कंट्री के प्रति, कम्युनिटी के प्रति और लोगों के प्रति अगर निभाना चाहेगा, तो what was the result? What was the result? There he says that person was inevitably ripped from, inevitably, unavoidably, जिसे हम अवॉइड नहीं कर सकते, inevitably वो होना ही है. Such person must be or must have been ripped from his family, ripped from his home, yes, and was forced to live a life apart. Live a life apart means live a separate, a life, solitude, in solitude. Such person had to be lived. Yes, means the person who fulfilled his duty towards the country had to live apart, live his life apart in a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion, as Vida Savarkar in India. Yes, Damodar Savarkar जिनकी बात करते हैं हम. He had to live the life of secrecy and rebellion. Chandrasekhar Azad. Yes, many people are there in India. Then again Subhash Chandra Bose. They all had to live the life of secrecy and rebellion. Why? Because they wanted to fulfill their duties towards the country, towards the people, towards the community. And same there he says in South Africa, the same condition was there. There also a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people. His people means country, community. Was inevitably ripped from. Ripped from means separated from. Yes, separated from. अलग कर दिया जाता था from his family and his home. उसके घर से और उसके family से. As well as that person was forced to live, forced, उसको force, actually मजबूर रहते थे वो to live a life apart. Live a life apart means separate, solitude में, अकेले में life उनको जीना पड़ता था. And that life apart, it is mentioned there, twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. Twilight means the time when the condition gets bad. ओके ऐसा समय जहाँ कंडीशंस और बिगड़ती जाती है, बुरी होती जाती है. ऐसे समय में एग्जिस्टेंस जो होता था वो कैसा होता था? ऑफ सीक्रेसी एंड रिबेलियन. सीक्रेसी गुप्त वाला, एंड रिबेलियन उद्रेक, रेबेल. सो सच लाइफ दे हैड टू लिव. They had to live if they wanted to fulfill or try to fulfill their duty to the country, to the people, to the community. Yes, then here he says, I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. But here very frankly, or he confessed, Nelson Mandela confessed or very frankly said that in the beginning he did not choose his people, his country, yes, to fulfill his duty towards. Firstly, or in the beginning, he preferred his family. He preferred his family to the country. Yes, in the beginning. But there, look at he mentioned there, in the beginning. I did not, in the beginning, Nelson Mandela did not choose to place my people above my family. To place my people above my family means actually he did not prefer, or he did not give priority to his country than to his family. Than to his family means he gave priority to his family. He gave priority to his family than the country. In the beginning, but look at the phrase is mentioned there. In the beginning, शुरुआती दौर में. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Then he says, but in attempting to serve my people, means in fulfilling my duty to my country, my people, my community. While fulfilling his duty to country, what happened there? He found that means he noticed, he realized that he was prevented from fulfilling his duty towards his family. Yes, actually, as he mentioned earlier, yes, पहले उन्होंने मेंशन किया है कि it was almost impossible to a person to fulfill both the duties in the country like South Africa at that time. उस समय साउथ अफ्रीका जैसी कंट्री में एक व्यक्ति को दोनों ड्यूटीज फुलफिल करना इम्पॉसिबल था. If a person fulfilling his country towards his people, he was forced to live a life apart. He could not fulfill his duties towards his family, and same happened with Nelson Mandela. In the beginning, he fulfilled his duty towards his family, but later on, while attempting to fulfill his duty towards his people, he noticed, he realized that he had been prevented from fulfilling his duty as a son, as a brother, as a husband, as a father. एक पापा, एक हस्बैंड, एक बेटा, एक भाई के नाते वो ड्यूटी फुलफिल करना नहीं कर पा रहा था. Yes, it is just due to the duty he was fulfilling towards his country. Yes, then look at there what he said. I was born. Did you understand both the duties and the experience he had, Nelson Mandela had in South Africa? Okay, only twin obligations he talked about, you must understand, and the result of it while fulfilling the duty towards country. Okay, the result is he had to live a life apart. He was not able to fulfill his duty towards his family as a son, as a brother, as a father, as a husband. Yes, and then look at what is given there. I was not born with a hunger to be free. As a child, when he was born, he was not born with a hunger to be free. कोई फ्री रहने के लिए इसका जन्म नहीं हुआ था. मीन्स उसी समय से इसके मन में भूख नहीं थी. ये भी जाहिर सी बात है, जब बच्चा कोई जन्म लेता है तो बचपन से ही उसको फ्री का कोई भूख नहीं होता है. यस, no one is born with a hunger to be free. Yes, and it is fact actually. But then here he says, I was born free in every way that I could know. But as a child, every child is free. So same here, he was also free in every way that he knew that time. Okay, उसको उस समय जैसा पता था कि बच्चों के लिए फ्रीडम मैंने क्या है. और जाहिर सी बात है, तुम लोग भी जानते होंगे कि जब कोई व्यक्ति बच्चा होता है तो उसको पूरा फ्रीडम होता है. इधर उधर भागो, कूदो, नाचो, खेलो, नो बॉन्डेज. Yes, so same there. When he was child, he was free. He was free in every way that he knows. Okay, then free to run in the fields. अब देखो उस समय का उसके लिए फ्रीडम यानी क्या था. As a child, as a boy, एक छोटा बच्चे के नाम पे उन्हें क्या क्या फ्रीडम थी वो देखो उन्होंने लिस्ट बनाकर यहाँ बताई है. फ्री टू रन इन द फील्ड्स नियर माई मदर्स हट के बाजू में फील्ड में भागने का पूरा स्वातंत्र्य था. फ्री टू स्विम इन द क्लियर स्ट्रीम अ रिवर दैट रैन थ्रू माई विलेज. उस नदी में नहाने का भी पूरा स्वातंत्र्य था. फ्री टू रोस्ट मेलीज अंडर द स्टार्स and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. Means such freedom he was having. Look at the first one, to run in the fields near his mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream, that means river that ran through his village. And free to roast mealies. एक प्रकार की फूड है जिसे वो रोस्ट करके खाया करते थे. So under the stars means रात के समय में. ओके, रात के समय में उसको मिलीज भी रोस्ट कर भूज के खाने का पूरा अधिकार था, पूरा स्वतंत्र था। एंड देन अगेन राइड द ब्रॉड बैक्स ऑफ स्लो मूविंग बुल्स, स्लो मूविंग जो बुल्स हैं उनके ऊपर भी राइड करने का पूरा अधिकार था। मीन्स एक्चुअली हियर ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द फ्रीडम ही वाज हैविंग एज ए बॉय, एज ए चाइल्ड। Then as long as I obeyed my father, as long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Yes, as long as, जब तक उन्होंने ओबे किया अपने फादर को, and he was abided by the customs of my tribe, उनके ट्राइब की जो भी कस्टम्स थे उनसे जब तक वो जुड़े रहे, अबाइडेड बाय मीन्स जब तक वो जुड़े रहे, ही वॉज नॉट ट्रबल्ड, ही वॉज नॉट ट्रबल्ड, उनको कोई दिक्कत नहीं हुई। यस, टिल ही वॉज मीन्स टिल ही ओबेड ऑल द कस्टम्स, टिल ही ओबेड हिज पेरेंट्स, टिल ही फॉलोड द कस्टम्स ऑफ हिज ट्राइब, जो भी उसके ट्राइब के कस्टम्स थे जब तक उन्होंने फॉलो किया। He was not troubled by the laws of man or God. जो भी मैन के, इंसानों के बनाए हुए जो नियम थे उनसे कभी भी उसने दिक्कत नहीं हुई। कब तक? Till he obeyed his father, till he followed the customs of the tribes. जो ट्राइब पीपल है उन लोगों के जब तक उन्होंने कस्टम फॉलो किया, एक्चुअली हियर ट्राइब मीन्स द ब्लैक्स लोगों के लिए जो नियम बने थे जब तक उन्होंने फॉलो किया, he was not troubled, उन्हें कोई ट्रबल नहीं हुआ। बट अब देखते बाद में क्या हुआ। यस, एज अ चाइल्ड देयर वॉज नो प्रॉब्लम विद हिम, बट व्हाट हैपेंड नेक्स्ट we will see in our next video lecture. So keep watching my videos and enjoy the classes. Okay, bye bye, see you.